on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. Always a good show tonight and an opportunity for you to call in and get some information. We're talking about basically how do you plan for the costs of getting older? Maybe you have a loved one. How are you going to pay or help that loved one pay for the cost of nursing home care? Or how will you yourself plan for that very expensive care as we get older? Happy to have with us Tim Takacs, elder law attorney. Tim, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be back.
Always love having you on. And It's always a great opportunity for people to call in and ask some specific questions. But to just put us on the right page here.
Yes.
Elder law. Explain that, you know, and what is it? And how can you help people essentially tonight?
So elder law basically is a multidisciplinary type of thing. It's at least the way that we practice. You know, it includes estate planning, wills, powers of attorney, includes trust, often what people might think of as traditional law or traditional estate planning. You know, people come in, I want to get my ducks in a row, get my wills, powers of attorney, get an estate planning done. You know, and then on the opposite end of that, essentially, is that you get people who are coming to us, maybe they're expecting to go into a nursing home someday. Maybe they're considerably incapacitated. Maybe it's a spouse that's planning for a loved one. Her husband or wife is needing nursing home care. Well, how do I pay for this? You know, then you have the great middle of people who what we call are the unhealthy older people. You know, as they get older, some of them lose function. They become cognitively impaired. You know, they're too high functioning to need nursing home care, but they're not functioning well enough to be able to live independently, you know, by themselves.
Right.
You know, so they need help. You know, and so we work in all of those areas.
Would you say most of your clients are people coming in for a parent or an older loved one, or most of them coming in for themselves?
The estate planning clients are coming in for themselves. Those are the healthy older people. I mean, we have clients and we have older people who are 90 years old and are coming in and doing estate planning. You know, and then we have people who are 60 years old and are coming in, maybe their children are coming in, or maybe a spouse is coming in. Because we have one of them who needs extended care in a nursing home. And in fact, I think, you know, my partner Barbara, who I know who's been on for many times, you know, we had someone come in today, and that was the case where had I think a 60-year-old husband and maybe a 58-year-old, you know, wife, you know, and you know who needed care.
Right.
You know, and so now they're planning on hopefully we not necessarily needing nursing home care, but maybe we're going to be needing some sort of public benefits to help them, you know, successfully age.
So the way we all get the most out of this is if you call in. Call in with your question, your situation. You can call for a friend, whatever the case may be.
Right.
You know, we can all benefit and learn from that. And so that's one thing that came through your door here today. What are some other things, I guess this time of year, is this a time of year where you see one thing more than another?
It's really very interesting, I say, because what we see is that our business tends to sort of slow down around the holidays, around December, mid-December to mid-January to late January. You know, and now we're starting to see, and certainly in February and now in March, as we're seeing an uptake, and it just seems to sort of traditionally work that way. Maybe we do more estate planning, like late in the year and maybe in January. But now I think maybe we're starting to see more people coming in. Like today, for instance, so we were talking just before we went on. You know, I had a gentleman that came in this afternoon, and he's came in to plan for his 82-year-old father, you know, who lives in southeast Tennessee. So, you know, he and his wife live in Sumner County, you know, and his father lives in southeast Tennessee. He had a stroke about a year and a half ago. Got better, but now he thinks he can go back home. And that's where he is. And so now he and his brother and sister are trying to sort of fill in the gaps, you know, while his father goes, well, I don't need all this help. You know, and of course he does. You know,
and the help, what kind of help are you talking about, generally speaking? Would it be in-home care type help?
In his situation, it was they have sitters coming in, you know, 4 hours a day for a couple days a week. You know, then the son, you know, the daughter-in-law comes on weekends, or a daughter comes on weekends. You know, then the son comes maybe every 2 or 3 3 weeks or whatever to check on dad and give. I mean, so it's all kind of like that's how they're filling in the gaps. And the problem becomes in those kind of situations, and I know a lot of the viewers know because they've been through this, is that the father is just impaired enough not to be able to appreciate that he really can't take care of himself.
Oh, wow. That is rough.
Yeah, because up until that time, he's 80 years old and he was still working.
Oh, wow.
He was still living independently. He was still working, for a local business. And then he had a stroke, and he thinks he's going to go back to where he was, but he can't. But with a stroke, it also affected his cognitive ability, so he lost that function to be able to recognize or to be able to acknowledge that I can't do this anymore.
So that's real world stuff.
It really is stuff.
And that's heavy stuff sometimes.
It is.
And yeah.
Because sometimes it's one thing if dad's like right around the block from you.
Right.
But when the nearest child is 150 miles away, and there's not that much resources with the family to come up with these solutions. It could be, how do we get dad to move near one of us? Which then becomes a real challenge. Yeah,
dad may not want to move.
Yeah, because he says, I don't need any help.
Right.
Well, what am I doing here? Why am I here 3 days a week then? Well, I didn't tell you to come here. That's really, unfortunately, that's often, that's often what happens. And it's really through no fault of the parent because, like I said, is their brain is damaged.
Right.
They lack the ability to recognize that.
All right, we have a call here. Let's we'll take this call, and if you want to call in, there's the number 615-737+, 615-737-7587. We have Sue on the line. Hello, Sue.
Hi.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I have a short question. Thank you. If a trust is often used as a barrier. You put property in a trust so that it's difficult for someone to basically take it away from you, or if you're in a situation where you got all your faculties and you think maybe at one point in time you won't have them, or you might be a struggle to prove it or whatever. What I want to know is I'm thinking along those lines. I've got something that definitely belongs in a trust regardless, and then so another property that I live within my means, so I never purchase more than I can afford to pay. But I've been told that a mortgage, if you add a mortgage either before or after you buy a piece of property, it still represents it takes the function of a trust and it makes it even that much, puts them another barrier there. And I'm just wondering how much, is that barrier significantly higher, or is it worth getting a mortgage if you don't need to?
Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, thank you for your call, Sue. Hold on, maybe.
Okay, so
all right, explain that for all of us.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what a trust is.
Right.
Okay, so Sue says, well, I've heard that, and she's right, that people, as they get older, there are a lot of reasons to set up a trust. And a trust is really it's not a place, it's not a thing, it's not a black box in Siberia or some, or it's not in a bank. It's basically a legal way of somebody holding, managing, and distributing money or property for the benefit of either themselves or somebody else. Okay, so I have a piece of property and I say, Ben, I'm going to transfer title to you and I want you to hold this property for my benefit.
Right.
So if I need it someday, you're going to give it to me. Or I'm concerned that I may be subject to undue influence because I may want to give it away to the next person that comes along and be nice to me. I don't own it, but you do, and they'd have to come to you and say, well, why do you want to give this money to this person? Okay, that's a trust. Okay. Now, so Sue says, well, what if I put a mortgage on this property, basically a lien? That means that, that means if somebody tries to take it away from me, they're going to have to get it with the mortgage or the lien on it. Well, maybe yes or maybe no. They're going to get it. That doesn't mean they owe the mortgage. It means the mortgage is subject to, the property is subject to a mortgage. The short answer to Sue's question is, unless she needs the money from the from the mortgage, like taking a line of credit out, I don't see any point in it. A trust would work just fine to solve her, to help to allay her concerns about
what if she
the
does
property.
Need the money? Because it seems like that's the only reason you'd be asking. or not? Am I just not
if it's particular types of trust,
right?
You know, you can borrow them. If the property is in a trust, you can still borrow against it.
Right.
You know, so if she needs the money, then the trust can borrow it, or she can borrow it as a trustee or whatever, and she can get money that way.
And so, how common are trusts?
Very common.
They're very common.
Yes. Yeah, we use them all the time in our practice for a lot of different reasons. One is, like Sue said, you know, to protect the property, you know, for undue influence reasons. It could sometimes for asset protection reasons, because okay, I own this piece of property. If I go to a nursing home, I want to transfer it to a trust. So the nursing home, it doesn't count for me towards the nursing home cost.
Wow.
You know, those are options.
Okay.
That's how we use them. Sometimes we often use them to avoid probate for people, because if a property is in a trust, the person dies, the property then is in the trust and it's distributed outside of probate. So it doesn't go through court. That's another reason to do a trust.
Okay.
One of the great products of the human mind, as I often will say, is a trust.
Trust.
I do. Just for that reason, because they're so useful for many things. It's a tool, though. You have to have the right reason to have it, and frankly, the right person wielding, using the tool.
Sure. All right, Sue, are you still there?
All right. Sue, are you still there? All right.
No, I don't think Sue is. Sue, are you still there? I think she did go. Okay. All right. Well, fascinating.
Yes.
I think we'll take a break.
Okay.
If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Any question you may have involving elder law. So give us a call, take a break, be back right after this.